podcast show for business owners and managers who are passionate about developing people and growing a successful business. And now here's your host, Alistair Booth from the HR Booth.
Channel, and thanks for tuning in to this latest episode. In this episode, I'm going to discuss some of the steps that employers should be taking before you get to a redundancy situation. And the kind of reason for doing this podcast on this particular subject at the moment is basically because in our business, we have kind of seen an increase from existing clients and also from other businesses looking for a little bit of support because they're looking to make redundancies. So we have kind of seen, I suppose, the dreaded R word kind of creeping in quite a bit since the start of the year, and more businesses kind of looking at redundancy as an option. And what I want to do in this episode is, I suppose, try and kind of help businesses maybe to try and do the right thing and think maybe before redundancies become a necessity, is there other things that you could be doing before it kind of gets to that stage? And I think what's making business owners perhaps a little bit twitchy at the moment is that the UK has entered what's been called a technical recession. And I think that, does bring a little bit of kind of nervousness to, I suppose, the whole of the UK in terms of consumers maybe not wanting to spend money. That has an impact on businesses, and then businesses get a little bit kind of nervous and twitchy around that, because if the money's not coming in, then the first thing that tends to happen is that they kind of look at their kind of people and their labour resource, if you like, and then they decide that's where they want to kind of cut costs, and the impact of that can be quite damaging, in terms of kind of making people redundant. Not great for individuals, and that's not great for society, and that's not great for the economy, and it's perhaps not great for the organisation as well, because it might be seen as a bit of a kind of reaction to something, and doesn't then paint a good picture for them in terms of what their existing employees think of them moving forward. And then obviously, if they're then looking to recruit again in the future, then it might kind of harm that opportunity to do that, where they've perhaps made redundancies that might not have kind of been 100% kind of necessary. So today's episode is really just kind of looking to see, is there a different option or different ways in which businesses can kind of manage that situation before it gets to redundancy. And it might well be that's not the case, But what I want to try and get across in this episode is that redundancy kind of should be a kind of last resort, and just to kind of think about the different things that businesses could do before getting to that situation where you're kind of making redundancies. And I've been thinking about this a wee bit recently, because I think thinking back probably to, in fact, this time 2020 actually is what we're hitting, late February, start of March. COVID was rife, and I think when we got into the beginning of March, I can't remember the specific dates, but I do remember a lot of the messaging from government was kind of stay at home, don't go out and don't mix. And what I do remember from that time is a lot of our kind of clients then saying, we've got no customers coming in. The government are telling people not to come into to shops and hospitality and things like that. What do we do with our staff? We're going to have to make redundancies. And what I remember kind of back then was kind of saying to kind of clients, don't jump the gun just yet. There's other options before redundancy. So that might be things like kind of short time working. It could be layoff and, different things like that. Or there might be an option to consult with people to kind of change their working hours and, come to some agreement around that. And I was also kind of saying, there could be something coming from the government that will give us a bit more kind of guidance on this. And that's exactly what happened. I think a few weeks after, probably not even a few weeks, probably a couple of weeks, I think then the furlough scheme was introduced. So I think we'll remember the kind of Friday night, Rishi Sunak, who was the Chancellor at the time, and Boris Johnson as the Prime Minister, had announced the kind of furlough scheme and what that kind of meant for businesses. So that gave businesses an opportunity not to make redundancies and use the furlough scheme. But in the lead up to that scheme being announced, I think there was probably like a 2-week period where, people were kind of staying at home on government advice, and some businesses did kind of jump to redundancies, and that was kind of the choice that they made. So I guess now that we're in a technical recession, there isn't going to be a furlough scheme or anything like that is going to bail companies out. And I've been, I suppose, fortunate enough that been in HR for over 30 years. I've worked in HR manager roles during recessions before. I remember 2008 very clearly. And the company I was working for at that time, and some of the steps that we had to take. And yeah, there was a lot of redundancies in that business at that time, but the redundancies were far less than they could have been because of some of the other steps that we took. And I think now as well, with some of the SME businesses that we certainly kind of support, and a lot of the kind of client base and businesses that we kind of look after are kind of SME businesses. A lot of them actually wouldn't have been around in 2008. And in actual fact, some of the managers and leaders and founders of some businesses might not have actually had a business during a recession. So it's kind of new territory for a lot of businesses. And the good thing about kind of speaking to someone like, say, the HR booth is that we've got decades of experience, and myself and John and other members of the team have been in HR roles during kind of recessions before, so we kind of know what to maybe expect. And by all accounts, this kind of recession that we're in, it's a technical recession is what they're kind of calling it, and it's just because GDP and the spending in the British public is isn't where it needs to be. But from all accounts, reading some of the analysts and what they're kind of saying, it isn't going to last forever. And it looks like it could be quite short term. And I've been kind of following some of the things that kind of happened in the US last year, and they've kind of gone through this and kind of come out of it by the looks of it as well. So I think so it isn't going to be, hopefully isn't going to be long term, and hopefully isn't going to be anything like the kind of COVID pandemic, where it did last for a significant period of time, and the furlough scheme lasted, I think, kind of 6 months, and then at the end of that, and I think what we're trying to get across in this episode is that the steps that you take now and the actions that you take now could have huge implications and an impact on not just the people that that are in your business, but also your kind of business kind of longer term. And what happened when the furlough scheme ended was a lot of businesses then took that as an opportunity to make people redundant. We then had kind of Brexit, and then we were kind of coming out of lockdown. And what then kind of happened is we've had a skill shortage, because people that got made redundant or left the UK, we've then just had an issue where we've got a kind of skill shortage, and that's carried on for a period of time. And I guess what I'm going to try and get across in this episode is that if you make mass redundancies now, or in the next kind of few weeks and next few months, then you could be faced with a skill shortage later on in the year when this recession, is over, and people are looking to recruit again, and the actions that you take now could impact on your employer brand, and that's what we want to try and kind of get across. So as I say, redundancy should be a kind of last resort. So things, you might be thinking, well, how is that a last resort? You might be saying that your staffing costs are your biggest costs in the business, so how can you not make redundancies? But what you could be looking to do, and this is something that we've done with businesses before, and when I've been in in-house HR roles, it's something we've done, is you could look at a kind of temporary reduction on salaries as a way to avoid redundancies. So that might be more appealing to people than kind of job cuts. So the way to kind of do that is transparent communication, talking about the kind of financial health of the company, and what you would want to try and get across with whether it's individuals or your trade unions or your nominated kind of employee reps, is just to kind of basically understand, help them understand the financial implications and the financial health of your business. And if we take action now to reduce pay on a temporary basis, that means that we can kind of get through these kind of stormy waters without having to kind of pay people off. And I think if you get that understanding and that cooperation from your team members, my experience tells me that people kind of buy into that. And, that's certainly something that I've seen quite a bit in the past. Other things that you could be looking at is where you've perhaps got agreed pay increases due to take place. You might be looking to get agreement for people to defer that. So if their salary increases due in April, you may be looking to kind of defer that for a period of time, just to kind of help with your kind of cash flow during this as I say, technical kind of recession that's on the go. Other things to consider, and things that I've seen working well in the past, is perhaps temporary changes to pension contributions. So that might be an agreement from individuals to reduce the employer and the employee contribution, or just the employer contribution, just to kind of help the business kind of save some cash in the short term as well, so that you're still able to kind of preserve some jobs. And another one would be looking at employee benefits. So are there employee benefits that you're kind of paying for? So it might be things like gym memberships, there might be employee discount schemes, or different employee benefits you're kind of paying for that have maybe not got like a huge uptake, and that's why you should always be reviewing the employee benefits to check the uptake, because are you getting real value from that? And if you were to kind of reduce some of that spend, does that allow you to kind of save on potential redundancies in the future? So have a look at that. Also looking at things where people could maybe do reduced hours, so kind of shorter weeks, part-time working arrangements, different things like that, where if people are reducing their hours, that might kind of help with some of the savings that the business could make. And then there might be also options where, and this is still something that happens today, probably because of COVID, but a lot of people working from home. You've maybe, not got so many people in the office, but where you do, is there an option to try and kind of reduce your kind of office costs and office expenses and have people kind of working more at home? So you're maybe kind of saving money on utility costs, you might be saving money on rent, leasing costs, all these different things. So have a look at that and see if that's kind of savings that you can make as well. And then obviously things like office expenditure. So if you're kind of cutting down on non-essential office supplies, could that help? And then I think looking more importantly at other things that the business might spend. So things like you might be doing a lot of business travel. Is that necessary? You might have a lot of kind of hospitality or corporate events. Again, is that really necessary? And then kind of travel to kind of various meetings, could you kind of flip some of that and do that to back on online Zoom and Teams and things like that, just to kind of save some of your kind of potential kind of travel costs. So different things like that would be kind of quite a good idea. And just looking at where else the business is spending money. So not necessarily things that might impact on people as such. So, so things like, reduced salaries is going to impact on people, but is there other things in the business that you're spending that, you could reduce that? Does that benefit your employees and mean you're not having to, kind of make so many kind of changes to protect the business? And what I've kind of seen working well over the years, regardless if it's redundancy or changes to terms, is really just about involving people. So, it could be kind of called crowdsourcing or looking at employee forums, employee reps, but essentially in a time of crisis or a time of challenge, harnessing that collective intelligence that your kind of business and workforce have, that allows you to come up with different ideas. So why would you not kind of ask that question? They're at the front line. They maybe see things that are maybe not operating as efficiently as they possibly could do. So is there efficiency gains to be gained elsewhere? Is there operational kind of savings? So by involving people in, doing what we kind of class as crowdsourcing, you're involving people in that approach, asking people to come forward with ideas and suggestions. And that inclusive approach, generates a diverse set of ideas, but also kind of fosters a sense of community and a sense of unity. And it allows people to feel that they're involved in the process and builds morale during quite a difficult time. So you're involving them and getting them to be kind of part of the solution. So benefits of kind of doing that is that you get different perspectives, different departments, different backgrounds can offer different insights into things. You maybe get suggestions from things that you as a management team have not considered. You get better employee engagement, so you're involving employees in that problem solving process, and as I say, they then become part of the kind of solution. And again, it's more cost effective than perhaps hiring an external consultant to come in and look at all these problems, where if you actually engage with your workforce, they'll kind of tell you all that anyway without having to pay thousands of pounds on consultancy fees to kind of do that. So there's a cost effective kind of option there. And then again, during, I suppose, changing economic kind of times and conditions, there's that kind of, I suppose, people being agile and able to adapt. So you can quickly, I suppose, make things happen and change things pretty quickly during these kind of changes as well, without having to wait for kind of sign off. So final points on that, I suppose, is, a recession, does require a kind of balanced approach. You need to kind of prioritise the well-being of your people. but also the well-being of the business. So I think before considering kind of layoffs and redundancies and different things like that, think about the different strategies that you can do to reduce your labour costs whilst preserving as many people in jobs as you possibly can. So look at some of the employee benefits that I've kind of mentioned. Look at operational kind of efficiencies, and just there's different ways that you can kind of navigate an economic downturn without having to pay lots of people off. And as I say, by doing that, you engage with your people, have them part of the kind of solution. Will kind of get you kudos kind of later on. And if you still have to kind of make redundancies, at least people know that you've kind of tried to do the right thing. You've taken all reasonable steps to avoid that, and that will get you a bit of kind of gratitude kind of later on down the line, where the people who remain in the business know you've tried to do the right thing. They're still part of a business that they feel engaged and loyal to because you have done the right thing. But as I say, when the recession is over or the economy kind of picks up and you need to recruit again, people can kind of see that as well and think that is a good employer to kind of work for, and they did try to do the right things. And your employer brand and your reputation is something you can't really kind of put a price on. So hopefully that helps. And as I say, hopefully this kind of technical recession that they're talking about isn't going to last forever. And hopefully we can kind of get through this without so many redundancies having to take place or so many kind of job cuts and layoffs and things like that. So hopefully that's been kind of helpful. But if you're looking for any advice on steps that you can take before redundancy, or you're at that point where you need to kind of take, make redundancies, it's always important to get some specialist advice. So that doesn't have to be through the HR booth, but if you are kind of going down that route, we would always advise you to get proper HR and employment law advice on that. If you've got any questions on anything in this episode, whether it's regarding this particular topic or anything else, you can contact me via the website, which is www.thehrbooth.co.uk, or you can contact me via email, which is info@thehrbooth.co.uk. So I'd say thanks for tuning in, and we will be back again very soon with some other episodes. Thanks again.